Right, 3, 2, 1.
Welcome to the Whine No Whine Show, Artist Edition. I'm Harley. I'm going to be your host, and today we are going to be talking about topics all covering in the media right now. All these crazy things. We're going to be talking about crisis actors, false flags. We're going to be talking about fake news, and we want to hear your opinion. We're going to sit here, disagree civilly, and get along just like America should do, and teach everyone else a lesson. So chime on in and tell us your points and your opinions. Right now, we have a point in our show where we do shameless plugs. I'm going to let the camera swing around and hand it over to my guests, and they're going to tell you a little bit about themselves, where we can find you, and what it is you do. So let's start with you.
Hello guys, my name is Gene Valentine. I'm the drummer for Pretty Dreadful. We're a two-piece grunge punk band. Facebook, SoundCloud.
Sorry. We have all kind of new setup here, people.
Yeah, Facebook, SoundCloud, YouTube, of course. And I'm just excited to be here.
Right on. And that's Pretty Dreadful?
Pretty dreadful.
And the music's pretty
Sweet.
awesome, though, right?
Pretty
so
awesome.
you can check that out. And Joe, I mean...
How ironic.
That's the joke.
Yes. I love it. That's pretty cool.
Your turn?
Oh, okay, all right. Yeah, I'm Joe Orsak.
I guess.
I'm a guest.
Guest on
I
his
don't
own
know.
show.
I think I've been a guest before. I
Really?
think you have.
No.
I don't think you
I
have
really
a
don't
guest.
think that you've been a guest ever.
It's
I
always
don't
been
think
host.
so.
And today I'm going to try to host the host of the Whine No Whine Show.
This will be interesting.
the actual
Yeah.
edition on Friday that goes live at 5. Yeah.
So this is the first for me being a guest on the show. So my shameless plug is the show.
Tune in. Watch up. Tell your friends. Share us if you can, and follow us on YouTube at Facebook and YouTube.com/The Whine No Whine Show.
We have a great time talking about everything we're not supposed to talk about while drinking alcohol.
Today we're definitely.
What
gonna
could
talk
go wrong?
Yes, today we're gonna get into it. What about you? Why don't you go ahead and tell them?
Hello, I'm Sydney. I'm kind of a veteran on the Whine No Whine Show.
Kind of a big deal.
But I'm plugging something else new today. I recently am starting training to be an esthetician at Peel Palace, a medical day spa, like in the spring Klein area. Thank you. I'm super excited
With
about
Farrah?
it. Yes, with Farrah, who was on the show last week. Yeah. So it's a medical day spa that, just go look at peelpalace.com, and it has all the things that she does, and come check it out, because
And
very cool.
to our Houston downtown crowd, they do the microabrasions and intimate skin bleaching. So if you're into that kind of thing, give them a share. Go over to peelpalace.com, because that's also a good friend of ours here at the show.
Sorry, there's too many jokes and intimate.
That's exactly
I was giggling so hard.
You guys know me. I'm Chris Minnemeyer, actually the former art director for Texas Music and Art, our host here. But I'm starting my new stuff. I have an art market going on in Humble. It'll be at Nectar Cafe. It'll be pretty cool every third Saturday. This is first time you're hearing, so first meeting was today. Should be a very upscale, fun event. We'd love to have you all out for that. Also, I'll be downtown actually move downtown tomorrow, so you're going to see me in the Montrose Midtown area pretty heavy here. You can find me Chris Minnemeyer on Facebook or CM Art on Facebook, and follow away.
And Chris is also the artist that painted.
Oh yeah, I did
Our
that.
art
Yes.
I'm an artist, of course. I did this commission piece for the Whine No Whine Show. It's a double entendre, saying, you can't cry over spilled milk, can't cry over spilled wine, wine no wine, the Whine No Whine Show. Check us out.
Yeah.
And that was the
Original
best
artwork.
intro I think we've ever had. So far on the Whine No Whine Show.
Absolutely.
Artist edition, at least. So yeah, guys, my name's Harley, and we're gonna jump right into our topic. Tell your friends, chime on in, share it with all of those people who go nuts. Give it to our keyboard warriors, hand it over. We want to know your opinions on fake news. Now, the first topic straight out of the gate with this is that we don't want to discredit any of the atrocities that have happened in America, and we don't want to say that or discredit any of the terrible acts that people have done and incurred, but we are going to speculate, because that's what this show is about. So let's hit off with this first one. It's really heavy. Chris, what do you think about all of these things happening in these shootings with the fake news? Do you think that there's anything going on right now that's just clearly like, all right, this is fake? Let's stir the pot a little
Right. I think that fake news is there for a reason. It does the tabloids. I mean, it's been around for ages. I think that the government's been giving us fake news since forever.
bit. Do you have an example, maybe?
We just talked about one, but
Yeah.
the gun running in the 80s, I think you were saying, Joe.
Contras,
The
yeah.
Contras. But I mean,
Some people would say, like, go as far as to say Sandy Hook was a
you
setup.
could go as far as to say 9/11.
Yeah.
There's
Osama
a big.
bin
I mean,
Laden?
the conspiracy theories go deep, and not to say that I believe in all of them, but I do think that
Pick your
it
thing.
keeps-
Moon landing.
No, it keeps.
Moon
We
landing.
Yeah, the moon
seriously,
landing,
we didn't
right.
land on the moon.
Right.
Pick your thing.
Flat Earth.
Right?
But to me, I think that it's there to drive conversation on stuff. So whether it be fake or not, I think it makes you go and look, and that is good.
Okay. Sydney, what do you think? Is there anything, like, now that you can clearly say is just, this is fake?
What?
Like on your Facebook or anything that you're reading? Is there anything that you've come across? Is there anything you've come
What?
across that's like, hey, this is fake? And if you know, like, how do you go about debunking it?
Well, I don't ever really like to. I always like to go into things with an open mind because I don't know everything. And even if you're like, okay, I'm gonna go online and look it up, half the stuff online is fake too. So like, you literally never know, like, what is actually. There are credible sources, of course.
You got your friends too. You can send stuff to and check it out.
Yeah, Joe is my person that I'm like, yo.
Or sack this.
It's getting a little hot in here. Yeah, but no.
I have to tell you all the story about what that.
I actually just Urban Dictionaried it, and I'm.
Perfectly okay not talking about it
I
on
do
the show.
want to.
Right. Me too. I don't want to talk about that on the show.
No,
But now
Now everybody's gonna go look it up.
Another time.
Now everybody's gonna go look it up.
What about you, Gene? Is there anything is there any point or stance you take when it comes to fake news and the problem that's going on? Is there anything that you can clearly be like, all right, this is fake? Fight.
All right, first off, whenever, because mostly I see a lot of news on Facebook, like
Yeah.
a lot of people do.
Yeah.
My whole take on the fake news thing is, for me, personally, whenever I see a video that I know is outlandish or I feel is outlandish, the first thing I want to do is research.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, because, again, that's my college mindset. I've always strove to never take anything at face value.
You were drinking cab, right?
Yes. But I never take any video I see or any kind of news by face value. I always do my research. That way,
Even the big ones, right?
Yeah,
Even
the smaller stuff, like
Mhm.
like there was a video about some guy, I forget what video, but some kid getting attacked or whatnot, and at first, you think, oh, it's poor him, or you feel bad for him, but, further research shows that, the kid did something to provoke, or, and not saying that, the video exists,
I
but
do remember
just
what you're talking about.
Mhm.
Yeah, it was a little kid, and he was crying over getting picked on, but the real story was the kid was doing a bunch of crazy stuff to all these other kids.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, so
Can't trust anything.
for me, again, I don't watch news like normal people. I go on Facebook like everybody else.
And a lot of people treat Fox and CNN and stuff like that. They treat that like, Facebook. They treat it like-
Factual.
yeah.
yeah, it's not all. Some people.
Well, I mean,
factual.
it goes both ways.
Right.
Some swear by it, and some people are like, "Oh no, it's Fox. It's totally left or right or whatever it may be." And I'm not just
News.
picking those, networks. I'm just saying, like, in general, since those are like kind of the big names. Well, what about you, Joe? What's your stance on fake news?
I think we have definitely been spoon-fed what we were told to believe for a very long time, and there used to be a lot more control over it because we had 3 big news networks and a handful of big newspapers, and that was a lot easier to control.
Before the internet.
Yeah, and but now the problem with the internet is that now we have an abundance of information,
Right there.
and you get
Yes, in your
you
hand.
get everything. You get the full spectrum, extreme right, extreme left, and every blend thereof. You get somebody who's extreme right, but they report accurately. It's just through the filter of right leaning.
Yeah.
And then you get somebody extreme left. New York Times, they're a great example, right? Extreme left, but they filter, but they're pretty accurate in their data. But you have to understand they're coming with a bias, right? And so
And that's what
we should not know that before.
Yeah, that's what everyone needs to understand, is that everyone's gonna have bias. The best thing you can do is give your perspective without necessarily having to, take a hard stand on something. But today, we're drawing the line. We're saying, okay, look, fake news has gone far enough. What's up with the false flags too? What's that all about? Does anybody have anything to say about false flags while we're at it? Because
So
I've
about
seen it.
like crisis actors being like the government supplying crisis actors for fake school shootings, or
Yeah.
I mean that's the hot one
And
right now.
that's a real thing.
Right.
Like, there are crisis actors. That is real.
Well, I've actually participated in a training event at the Berry Center right here in Cyprus.
Mhm.
We did it was
You're
as a paramedic.
as a
As a
paramedic.
paramedic in training, what we did was we had an entire school and 4 different fire departments come out and do a mock hazmat exposure to a concert. And so, like, I was actually a patient. I was the most worst off patient in the Berry Center, and they had to find me in the bleachers, passed out, and pull me out just like it was a real event. And so these training exercises do go on, and whether they're reported correctly or not is up to the person who's reporting it. So I think that while the fake news and those false flags, I think that they have a place because they force you to go find your opinion on the matter. Because, oh look, this is what I thought was going on, but there's this extreme non-thing about the same subject. It's like, whoa, wait a minute. So now it's saying, all right, I better go do my research.
Exactly. Now, what do you guys think about what was it, Florida recently was the one? I mean, we don't mean to, like I said, the views and opinions of the guests on the show don't directly affect the views and opinions of the owner of the show. Reflect, sorry.
Yeah.
Reflect. The wine's already going. So if you guys have an opinion, on any of this, please,
Comment.
feel free to comment. And thank you so much for watching and tuning in. We have a great local following of musicians and artists that come in and be a part of our show. So don't forget to follow us on YouTube, which we're also live on right now, right, Joe?
Yes, we're live on YouTube. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, do a live account.
And I'm gonna take this moment too to say, hey, we are gonna cheers to the 100,000 views.
Oh yeah.
You
Dude.
fought long and hard.
Dude, we're like at 130 or 140,000 views now.
Yes.
Cheers.
That is what we want. And cheers to the production team, man, too.
Yes,
You guys are
production.
amazing. Cheers.
Yeah, we got a lot of new stuff happening behind the
Which
scenes
camera am I
tonight.
supposed to look at here?
I don't know.
We got 5 of them now.
Moving on
man.
One of them said last minute, "Screw you, I'm taking the night off." Yes.
We need you
Not
both.
And yes, it's close enough.
So yeah, Tara, thank you for watching. And if you guys get a chance, go and check out her website. What was it? www. It was just
artofathankyou.com. artofathankyou.com.
David Pipkin's watching. Keen's watching. Kiki, thank you for watching. Mark, you guys. Samantha, thank you for watching. And then we're gonna post all those thank yous up there. The show sponsors, that's up there in the comment feed too. If you want to check that out.
So we got Kiki's asking what we're sipping on. She said she might have come a little too late to catch that. Yeah.
We're drinking what, a variety here. Cab.
Yeah, we got a
Pinot,
cab, we got a
Chardonnay for the
Pinot.
First time, huh?
Yeah.
But anyways, chime in, tell us your facts. We do have some new people chiming in. Carrie, thank you
Don't
for
get me
watching.
started.
Mark Faraz.
Awesome.
Mark and I
We're
talk
trying
like
to
a.
get you started though.
So Mark and I went back and forth on several points on the gun control thing. Oh, we were like all back and
Oh,
forth.
don't say gun control.
Right, yeah.
You're
we're
gonna start another shooting.
Yeah.
So recently,
He said, don't get me started.
yeah.
Yeah.
So we have a amazing team that's helping us put this production together. Samantha says that's the problem with media today. They give our facts with extreme bias and they put their opinion on the same level as facts. You're absolutely right, Samantha. I think that was the point you were making.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
But see, there's some people who will get online and swear up and down that whatever it is you stand on is completely wrong. So there's no real, like, I don't know how to say this. There's no real law or bar for it to be real or
Right.
fake, or like, you know, there's no real credentials you could ever really have, I guess, unless you know somebody that's
Unless
in
you
that
were there,
situation.
yeah.
You're participating in the situation, which is a true thing. So if we are using crisis actors, what does that mean for us, Joe? Like, what does that mean for us, guys? What does that mean for us, Gene? If we're gonna use crisis actors, this country's gonna use crisis actors. We're gonna lie to our citizens. What's it say about our government?
You know, I mean, so you know, we had the. I mean, again. So listen. I'm like, this is a tricky one. This is a tricky one with this kid David Hogg, and
Yeah.
they're like, you know, I went and researched and I you know, like dug up all this stuff and I know he's a real student at the school, right? He actually goes there, and I talked to somebody who knows his family, right? I actually talked to. They're like, I know his mom. I don't know his dad, but I know his mom. We worked at the same school together. All this kind of stuff. Like, she knew the family, and he has the whole thing where he was in California, and I'm like, so there's one side of me that goes, I know that part's all real, right? But I still like, okay, how often does this kid get on the news? I mean, like, I don't know any kids that have been on the news as much as this kid, right? And he just happened to be in California.
Exactly, and be on TV about something that just so happened while he was right there.
Yeah, it's just kind of weird.
Smells fishy.
And then I'm like, the CNN video where he was going over his lines like multiple times, and I'm like, I don't want to be the conspiracy guy. I'm not
We
that
don't-
guy.
We
But
don't
it
need
was
to victim shame either,
right.
you know?
Yeah, I'm not taking anything away from the kid, man. I'm just like, it just seemed fishy, right? And I don't trust government as far as I can throw government, right? So that's the place I come from, and we were talking about before the show. I'm like, we created Osama bin Laden. He was trained by the CIA. He was put in place to be a counter to the Russians and fight against the Russians in Afghanistan, and then we bailed on him. We left him hanging, and that's what pissed him off. And we created that whole problem.
And people
right?
would say that that's led to what us setting up 9/11. You know?
So I'm like, we have all of we have all kind of a history of all kind of shady behavior
What do you
as a
think about-
government.
what do you
So I'm
think
like, what
about
do you do
that,
with
Jim?
that?
Yeah, what do you think, man? Like, about, I don't mean to cut you off there. I can see you had something to say, and I was just like, how do you? Let's get down to it here. Do we call 9/11?
And you can
inside
like
job?
1,000% disagree with me. It doesn't matter. It's totally cool, man.
We'll pour you some more wine.
That's right.
No. Wow.
I'm glad you didn't come to me after that.
And I know it's a hard question to answer. You know, don't let me discredit it. And people even say like, there's so many different sides and points you can take on this.
See, I'm very conflicted because, you know, a little bit about me. I'm ex-military, ex-army,
Mhm.
right? So, you know, for me, again.
Get some comments
Oh,
going.
man.
I see Mark is fired up, man. He's ready to argue with me. I can tell.
This is a very hard one.
Yeah.
If I to put my 2 cents in, I guess I'd say, you know, I remember. I remember how traumatic it was for me when I was in elementary and it happened. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember that too.
And my dad was a veteran when that happened. Not a veteran, but he was in the army still when that happened. And it was scary, dude.
Exactly.
9/11?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
So, you know,
Yeah.
again, super hard topic for me.
Did you lose anyone in 9/11?
No,
No?
I didn't. But you know, it was a very traumatic experience. Being like, because I remember I was a little kid and I was in school, you know, and you know, I'm coloring and you know, not thinking about anything, and then you know, all of a sudden the teacher runs in, she's all hysterical, crying, and you know, I'm in shock because I've never, you know, seen it before. And she's telling me this, she's telling this whole class this, that, and the other. And I just remember that day being so hard to like do my assignments because I was just so scared. You know, I don't even remember what grade I was. But I was a little kid, you know, so I didn't have a general idea of where New York was versus where Texas was. So, you know, I'm thinking it's happening right here. And I'm all scared and panicky. And, you know, throughout the years, you know, as I get older, you know, I learn more about it. And, you know, I hear a lot of, again, for me, you know, I don't lean too much on one side or the other. I like to think of myself as a centrist kind of person. So, you know, a little, you know, I believe, but at the same time, I don't, and like, because I see a lot of videos, and
it's kind of like it's undeniable. Some people like, well, you could be there and be in that moment, and it sucks, and it really is tragic what happened in 9/11. But we're asking the question, you know, like, was it reported false? Was it fake? You know, like, what do you think? Do you think it was reported false? Do you think it was fake?
I don't think so.
No? What about you, Joe?
Honestly.
I definitely.
I'm asking you guys too. Do you think it was reported false? Do you think it was reported fake? Yeah, man.
Here's the stuff that I think. I think it was a real attack.
Oh yes, definitely real.
People definitely died.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was definitely.
Oh yeah, I mean no,
Yeah,
that
very
yeah,
true.
obviously,
We're not
obviously,
arguing
obviously the
that.
building's fine. Where I think there's shady stuff that happens, I think there's a ton of stuff that happens behind the scenes, involved with government that we're not privy to, and maybe I'm not even blaming anybody. I'm saying maybe it's sometimes for our benefit, you know, not to know these things. But I know that airspace was shut down, yet a bunch of Saudis were let flying out of the country when everything was shut down already. So there's sketchy stuff that happens all the time.
You're talking about the way that the buildings fell, you know.
Yeah.
They
So
shouldn't have fallen
check it
like
out.
that.
Like we had.
That too.
So check it out. How many of the people on the terrorists going back to 9/11 were Saudis? Right. The majority of them were Saudis. Right. That's where there's their country of origin. Yet we attacked Iraq. Why is that? Right? Because the Saudis have a buttload of money, and they were intimately connected with the Bush family, right? So I'm not,
There's a
I'm
lot
not
of politics involved.
exactly,
Yeah.
and I'm not blaming. I'm not saying it's anybody's fault. I'm saying that's the reality. That's the kind of stuff happens behind the scenes, and so kind of my point with this whole subject for me is I'm not saying the whole thing with David Hogg, like he's a crisis actor. I'm not saying that.
Well, they say he was
I'm saying
rehearsing his lines.
I'm like, there's some stuff that definitely looks sketchy, right? And so I've got to go back now and do homework. I can't just trust the media to tell me the truth. I can't.
I'm going to take the stance and say he was a crisis actor.
Oh, dang.
I'm going to take that stance, and I want people to prove me wrong because it's just I've been in drama, I've been in choir and stuff, and when you see somebody rehearsing lines like that with a certain diction and clarity, there's a level-headedness that you wouldn't see in a situation like that. I mean, not even combat veterans can be that calm.
It was
after
weird.
going
It
through
was
that.
definitely weird.
And,
It was
okay,
weird.
Piggybacking off of that, there were also, like, from the other kids' interviews, there's a bunch of, there was
It
like
could have
one
happened,
picture.
but he could have still been a crisis actor.
It definitely happened.
Well, I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like
It
that's what I'm
definitely
saying.
happened, and it's very sad, and it's something
So,
that.
To be,
But
go ahead. I'm sorry. I want
I'm
to jump in
I'm
with a
gonna-
point here. Go ahead.
So,
yeah.
there were multiple interviews where there were students who were, you know, like their perspective or what were they doing during the shooting or whatever, and it was really disturbing. But a lot of them were like smiling, or they would laugh, or they're like, whatever, like kind of. playing it
Yeah,
off,
a bunch
and
of my
it's like,
friends just died.
whoa, like, yeah, 17 of your classmates, and it's real because, you know, you do have those people that are very, like, affected by it, but you had others that were proved to be actresses or actors doing other things, so it is hard to know, like, what's real. Obviously, David, he's in the yearbook, like, he went,
Yeah.
you know, for a few years or whatever,
But he still could be an actor.
Well, and I was just saying
It's
that's kind of that was my
still-
point is that to
He's
be
the perfect actor. If
to
that's the case,
to
you know?
be clear about, like, do these events really happen? Yeah, I mean we're not trying to take away from the families that were there and experienced it. There real people died and
Yes.
real
And it's
parents
sad
real
that-
parents that have lost kids. That's not what any of the conspiracy theory is. You know, the conspiracy theory is that
They're playing it
they're
up with
they're
fake
planted inside that
They have an
environment.
agenda.
Yeah, exactly, with an agenda that now they spin that narrative in a way which is not coincidental. I mean, like the whole freaking
push
school
for
then came and they're all behind gun
To push
control,
gun control,
and they're pushing
Yeah.
agenda,
Yeah.
right? And the media sources that are behind that agenda are right there helping the kid get his lines right. I mean, like CNN there's no secret. They're very left leaning, right? They're as far left as you can get. And they have an agenda. They believe in gun control. And I'm not saying I'm for or against in this point. I'm just saying they have an agenda, and they happen to find that the kid who is questionable as a whole, crisis actor,
And the
then
perfect
they help him
situation.
rehearse his lines. I'm like, that's kind of weird, right? And I'm not saying I believe it. I'm just saying it's sketchy. I'm like
I
on
would
the
think that it's the news taking people out of those things, bringing them into a controlled environment, and these are children, these are kids, right? And they're coaching them in a way that's going to make their program get more viewers.
Well, they're not kids. You know, they're
Bam.
teenagers.
That's their thing. Well, they're teenagers.
we got some great
but I
comments
mean,
to it.
Yeah, we do have some.
They're
guys.
looking for viewers. That's how they make money. And their viewers are the left side. So
Yep. And they're
Bam.
gonna target
Game
their
is-
viewers
yeah.
because those are the ones that are showing up,
Oh,
And
staying
so,
tuned, watching.
he may be an actor, and they may have pulled him
a lot
out
of comments.
and said, "Look,
Oh, yeah, we got a
we're
lot of
gonna pay
comments.
you to just push our agenda."
All right. So let's start right here. Mark
Ash.
says, what is that? Occam's razor. All things.
Occam's razor, yeah,
Occam's
that-
razor. Sorry,
yeah.
I can't see. I things are considered equal. Using usually the
Usually.
simplest explanation is the truth. It's pretty obvious they flew our planes. Oh yeah, and then it goes on. Kerry says maybe he was rehearsing his lines because he thought he was told to be really clear with what he wanted to say, or the message he and his classmates wanted to put across. This is a good point.
I agree with
I
that
don't
too,
think-
because I would be
I can
super
see-
nervous having to go out
Okay,
there.
but I will say that did you watch the video?
No.
Okay, it was more than just being anxious on camera.
Yeah,
like
it
it
was,
was more
yeah.
than that, and what he was talking about was like what was happening to him. So there's no need for
Rehearsal.
exactly. There's no need for rehearsal. You were in it. You just say what happened, and he wasn't trying to. At that time, he
Without
wasn't
dropping
pushing
an
what.
F-bomb.
Well, yeah.
Well, I
That's
mean-
what I do live on TV.
Oh no! If I ever get the chance.
Well, Mark,
Never get the chance.
Mark said he's not an actor. Well, technically he is because he's in the drama class in the high school. What a coincidence!
That's what I'm saying.
Inspiring.
What a
So-
coincidence.
What a
Of
coincidence!
course, they went right to the drama club. And
It's
said,
just
"Look,
suspect."
guys."
I didn't even know that he was in the drama club. I
Yeah,
knew he went
yeah,
to attend
yeah,
high school,
and
didn't
yeah,
know he was in the drama club.
and he's in the journalism class. He's
And
a
I knew his dad was
future
in the
journalist, and his
FBI.
dad is in the FBI. Another coincidence. I mean, it's just like, come on, man. I'm not saying it is. I'm just saying it's suspect. That's all I'm saying.
It's very suspect. And now we gotta ask other questions like, what about Columbine, dude?
Mm.
Man, I read something about that it was all fake. It was a training thing. I read why nobody died in it. I read this
What?
article. I read this article. I was just flabbergasted. I didn't read much more, and I was like, "This is crazy." But you know how Facebook is.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I mean, and
yeah.
that's kind of the point. Is that there's
Tabloids,
stuff that's
you know,
crazy.
yeah, but that if I cared enough to discuss it with anybody, I would have gone and researched it. Not that it wasn't tragic, and that if it happened, but I have enough problems with knowing about death in my life, and I don't feel like having to rehash that stuff up. So I have my own reasons.
And we don't have an agenda here, if I may say so.
No.
Like, there's no political agenda for the Wine No Wine show. There's no like. We
Just
try to
hanging
be
out.
pretty even with everything. We're just sitting here hanging out, talking over a
Yeah.
glass of wine.
I mean, it's the question for me. Yeah, Mark and I have disagreed a lot in the last few days, and I like Mark. We're a good guy, right? I ain't got a problem with Mark. He said it's even if he was a plant, it's still immorally cheap and wrong to pick on a victim. Awesome. We got another camera working. Woohoo! He said he was still there when the bullets went flying. Right. So look, for me, it's not an attack on him, right? Because at the end of the day,
how it's portrayed, right? Or it's how it's presented to the public, right?
well, yeah, I was gonna say, at the end of the day, here's the thing: if he's really a crisis actor, and if he really was a plant, then it's not about him. It's about the
The people
evil.
hiring
It's
him.
about the evil people behind him that have an agenda that hired him to tell a story
That are
and
pushing him
create
to
it.
do it.
Exactly,
It's
they're
so
creating a
sad.
I don't
narrative.
want to badmouth
So-
anybody that was there, but
Right.
the media, I'll
Because it's so
badmouth
sad,
all
yeah.
day.
It's
Yeah, I'll bet not like a son of a.
It's not about picking on that kid by any means. And again, it's like this doesn't take away from the tragedy
Yeah.
of the event. That's still very real, and people died.
People
and,
are dealing with it and
Right.
whatnot.
It just adds tragedy on top of tragedy, if you ask me. I mean, have you ever heard the freaking line, don't let a good tragedy go to waste? Right?
Yeah.
That's a political statement, right? In other words,
So it's like, oh,
You
look,
can
this
capitalize
disaster
on it.
happened. Who wants to direct it?
right.
Or
I mean,
any-
at the end of the
any
day,
publicity is good publicity.
Mark says
that
most
people
people
have
have
to
been on
die
board
for
with gun control since Columbine. I disagree. I think there's a very massive side of America that says you will take my gun over my dead body, and that's a very strong opinion,
The
right?
whole flag says,
But-
come get it.
Yeah, absolutely.
On the
Exactly.
side of Lone
Come and
Star
take
Beer, they
it.
said, come and take it.
Yeah.
Right?
Just take
So-
us in
Come and take it.
Tuesday.
That's, yeah.
But-
Just hang
but
in my
my-
studio.
Come get it.
but my point with this subject is, and I'll shut up and let another guest talk. See, I get to be a guest now, so I can talk. Right? My bigger point is that there's absolutely a party in America that says, I will look at this tragedy with 17 deaths and say, what a great opportunity to push my agenda for gun control.
Yeah.
That with no respect to the families and to the
That are
kids that have
grieving.
died and everything else, that's where my beef comes in. I'm like, be all for gun control, man. I've got no problem, right? Get up there on the hill and push for legislation. Do whatever the heck you want to do. Rock on. But when
Stage
you're
protests,
when
do
you're
it.
outside the school with like the freaking bodies still covered up and ambulances hauling people off, and you're like, how do you feel about gun control? I'm like, I've got a problem with that. That's really freaking not cool. And you're helping coach this kid, even if he's not an actor,
And you're saying, you're very right for feeling that way. You're very
to
right for
spin
feeling
a
that way.
narrative, And I'm like, just shut up. I mean, it's not cool, man.
I
Like-
think it's sad that
So I'm done.
people
I'll go back to drinking wine
that
now.
people are having
Cheers.
to die for the government to.
I think you got a lot to say. You're holding back.
Yeah, let's hear
I'm
from
just
you.
I'm just taking in.
I think you got a lot to say, man. I feel it. I feel the vibe
You're,
over
you're up
here.
against 4 veterans on the show.
Right? Poor
Samantha,
new guy over
I
here.
know.
Ain't dealing with me as a guest.
Latoya, thank you for watching. Alicia, thank you for watching. Catherine, thank you for watching. Samantha says it's fake, like the Holocaust was fake. What do you mean by
There's people that say that.
Yeah, I think that was sarcasm.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's sarcasm. For real.
Quotation.
The real
That
cop
was
was
a good
there
one, man.
and with a gun and didn't do anything. So that's what's that. That's
Didn't
what
do
Mark said.
anything.
Yeah, didn't do anything. He got fired today. Could have stopped the shooter.
A-hole shooter.
Yeah, Chris. says
Mark,
that-
language, brother, language.
Yeah, it's hard to skip over them languages. You can look down the comments.
A-bomb. Mark dropped the A-bomb.
Yeah. So we're also what we wanted to talk about is if we're gonna start allowing fake news to be presented.
How do
like
we
that,
deal with it?
How do we deal with it?
We're not going to be able to know it. Okay, Photoshop.
How do you debunk? Like,
Photoshop has created the audio shop. And so essentially what they can do, I believe as of now or a couple years, is they can take 10 minutes of you speaking. You can be on television, as could be the president
Could be
speaking
this
on
show
television.
here.
Could be me right here. And they could take that and they can use my voice and create an almost exact replica of my voice. And then through facial recognition software for any video game or all these animated movies that are coming out, they can create the exact replica of maybe the president and his voice and tell you exactly what you want to hear or what you don't want
I
to
mean,
hear.
yeah,
or
people have
whatever.
been taking clips
been a problem.
of
I mean, so
speeches and
it are we?
Yeah, you're good. We're good. Yeah, we're good. Yeah.
So
Sorry.
I feel like that we've already lost the ability to get the correct news, and so you have to look at everything you see with that objectivity.
That comment.
Samantha says, Joe, I figure that's pretty much all political parties. That's how they can push their agenda. Take a tragedy and push it. That way, you're a horrible person if you disagree. And I completely agree.
That dude, that is a clinkable. That's
Yeah,
a
I'll
clink,
clink
that's
to
a
that.
clinkable comment right there.
Clinkable
Yeah,
comments.
yeah.
Drink to that.
Yeah. Hell of a comment. You're
make,
spot
make
on.
friends. You know, make friends with somebody that can help you debunk these things. So make friends with somebody that's not afraid to.
Norsack.
With an Orsac.
With a Joe Orsack. I'm just
that'll
playing.
do
Joe's gonna be like,
that.
y'all are
Because
gonna want to stop saying
you
that.
don't have to stand on anything until it happens to you, and a lot of people don't realize that because nobody goes banging, like you said, nobody goes pleading for gun control until tragedies happen.
And she's right. It's all parties. It really is. I mean, the Republicans are just as bad as Democrats. I mean, across the board. It's don't let a good tragedy go to waste. It's my beef that I have with media. Right. As soon as there's a mass shooting, or any tragedy, but the mass shooting is an easy one, right? As soon as there's a mass shooting, what's the first thing that the media is doing? Well, was he a Muslim? Was he a white conservative male? Was he a Christian? Was he a Democrat? Was he a Republican? They got to figure out what the hell this guy is so they can pigeonhole him, so they can piss the other side off and create drama, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, like, yeah, exactly. As soon as they figure it out, conservative white male, shoots this many people, off we go. And it's like, it's all about creating division. And that's how the media works. It's like us against them. That's the us versus them dynamic that this show fights against. This is the we dynamic.
This is the we dynamic. Mark actually, he chimed in. He said, if your feed isn't covered by I'm assuming you mean alternative press. If your feed isn't covered by the alternative press, you have an expectation of integrity. Clearly, there is a bias, but the main channels aren't fake. The real fake is coming from Russian and other bad actors stoking the flames.
I got to disagree with that. Here's the deal.
CNN and Fox aren't the problem.
Here's the
He
deal.
goes on to say it's all the noise coming from the BS sites that bubble up.
The tabloid sites.
Listen,
is that what he's saying? The tabloid sites?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Well,
You
exactly.
pot stirrer.
I
I'll drink to you.
I generally agree with you, Mark, on that point, right? But here's the problem. CNN isn't reporting the news. CNN is editorializing. Good Lord, that's a hard word to say after 3 glasses of wine. Editorializing the news. What used to be journalism doesn't exist anymore. Now we have what now is called the op-ed, or what used to be called the op-ed. It was the side column where the editor gave his opinion on the facts, right? And it was categorized that way so that you knew, this is my opinion as the editor, right? That now is what we call journalism, right? And they all do it. The New York Times, CNN, all of them,
you're
Fox,
special.
all of them, right?
Well, that's what sells.
They chime in with, here's the news, but it's all through their massive freaking filter, and the right is just as guilty as the left. And so now, on every dadgum story that I see, first place I go, media bias fact check. Best site I found, it'll tell you their leaning, and it'll tell you their accuracy, and it'll give examples, right?
That's pretty neat.
It's super.
I do
share that?
I do what Chris does.
Yeah,
Chris Mack
media
says
bias
the
fact
media
check.
doesn't make sense until you follow the money trail. That's every
Absolutely
time.
right.
Follow the money.
Absolutely
That's
right.
what,
yeah,
the
well,
truth's
money-
Associated Press.
Well, the only
Alternative
reason they
Press.
started doing
Sorry
it is
about
because
that.
America ate it up.
Associated Press. Yeah.
I mean, truthfully, if America didn't eat up all this fake stuff,
Mm-hmm.
then they wouldn't have
There
kept
wouldn't be a
doing
market.
it.
There
Yeah,
wouldn't
it
be a
wouldn't be a market.
It's called
I don't-
confirmation
yeah.
bias.
I mean, there's a if there's someone willing to purchase your product.
Maybe that's why you're
Are you
staying
really
so
the bad
quiet.
guy?
'Cause
You know,
he's got all of
He needs to chime in.
Yeah, man. What do you
Please,
think
yeah.
about all
Yeah,
that?
dude, I know you're holding back, man.
You're a veteran, right?
I know you're holding back.
please.
You don't have to speak from the veteran standpoint if you want to make this separate from what you did. I know that there's a lot of people who try not to speak about their experience in the service. So
For me,
He was
all right. My thing is,
Let it pour out, bud.
My thing is, with all kinds of news or fake or real, research is the key word. Research. I've always been a firm believer of research.
gotta research.
Yes, because again, yes, it might be outlandish, of course, but however, it might not. But my thing is I've always been a firm believer of doing the research behind the picture, the video, the news, the story.
Mhm.
That's my thing, That's
Do a little journalism yourself. So to speak.
yes. And that's just
And do you shut it down? Do you research and shut?
no. I mean,
You just keep it to yourself, or
not just keep it to myself, but it's just good to know, the truth behind it or whatnot. Granted, some people might look at it not shutting down, but keeping it to yourself. But you know, I see a lot of crazy videos on Facebook, and I see a lot of thank you. I see a lot of crazy pictures and stuff, and you know, and it only takes literally not even 5 minutes to research. Do your research. Know know the story behind whatever type of media that's been posted on Facebook. That's always been my thing. You know, that's what protects me, and that's what saves me.
You ever have
pretty bad on that one, didn't we?
do you ever have an instance where you've had to research something that sincerely upset you to find out that
Oh,
it was
of
not what
course,
you believed?
of
Do you
course.
remember one maybe? Or?
Plenty. Gosh.
It's hard
Not-
now
not
to put
the-
it
not
on the
the-
spot,
not the-
right? Yeah.
Not to pull the race card, and I
Yeah.
never used race card, right? But okay, this one example. All right, there's a young lady. You know, she was at a Petco getting kicked out. She was African American,
Mhm.
right? At first, I was like, "Oh, they suck." You know, they're kicking out this black lady because they're racist. But then, you know, I took a second. I was like, you know what? No, there has to be more to it. So I do my research. Finds out she's soliciting services at Petco, which happens to be a chain.
And it starts there and it just
Yeah.
grows from there.
Yeah, so a lot of people took that as, oh, they're racist. It's like,
It's
no,
easy to do
take your
when
do
face value.
yeah, just like
Mark,
again.
Mark says, yes, Snopes fact check everything before you share a post. It's your obligation to humanity.
Yes,
Dude, I got a
it
comment
is.
about that.
Exactly.
I got a comment about that.
Oh, let him out. I'm holding him back, Mark.
I almost had
Go ahead.
But I mean, but my thing is again, like I've always been a firm believer of doing the research behind any kind of crazy story on Facebook or
Yeah.
any kind of like news. You know, I never take anything face value. I always do my research.
Yeah.
I feel the same way, and
Ash,
that's why I
look
wouldn't
up
even go
Snopes.com
research
on
it.
media
Because
bias
I'm gonna
fact
go
check.
research a bunch of other fake stuff, and I'm still not gonna have a stance on it because I'm gonna be
Yeah.
blown
Bombarded
both
by more.
directions.
What was your comment on that?
Okay.
there, Joe?
So, 1,000% agree with you, right? Where we are at today is that you have to be ultra careful about even your research sources, right?
Don't wait.
And I mean, like, there's an Oxford study that somebody cited.
If it's on the internet, it's true, Joe.
Right. There's an Oxford study on media bias. Somebody said, "Oh, it's been proven that the right fall for more fake news than the left." I said, "Really? Where'd you get that from?" I already knew where they were going to reference because there's multiple articles that write about this, but they all tie back to the same study. It was an Oxford study, and the Oxford study I can demonstrate to you, prove it factually, had a bias against right-leaning articles. Right?
So a biased article that was biased.
Became the norm.
So here's a study from Oxford. How you can't look any more legit than that, right? And then you can I just point to a counter article that walks through step by step the study that was done and points out where their bias fell into play and how they eliminated certain sources and how they included certain sources based on their bias, right? And so if you don't know it, if you don't really do your homework and question everything, you'll buy into something because it's Oxford. It's Oxford. They're
And then
freaking been around for 400 years.
Yeah.
They're trustworthy, right?
And
And
when
it's the same thing with CNN. It's the same thing with New York Times and all these people. You're like, well, they're like a huge New York Times. I'm like, I'm gonna trust them.
And that's where
But-
people go for their news.
Exactly.
but-
And so you really have to question
I'm a Washington Post guy. actually.
everything. You have to question everything. And so at the
Not
end of the
true.
day, I pull.
Not true.
I will intentionally look for the articles that are left biased, and I go to Media Bias Fact Check. My daughter's going to share the link. Because for me this is part of the solution. And
Everybody
you need
needs
to
to know.
right. You need to have this tool. I go to Media Bias Fact Check. I plug it in. I see they're left of center, right? And then I look for accuracy high. Fantastic. I want to see the left bias on this
Because
subject.
You mean right.
Right. And now I read that, and I go, okay, got your point of view. And then I'll flip over to the right side, read that. I'm like, okay, got your point of view. And between those 2 points is the freaking truth.
You're gonna have to parent
It's
it.
your
It's
your
your
truth.
truth.
That's where I land.
Yeah,
right.
well, that's because, you read because I could get something completely.
Of course
out
you
of
could.
what I read.
Absolutely. I'm just saying I try to take in the bias of
Mhm.
both sides and be skeptical of each side.
Right.
I'm like, I
And
know
then
your
with
spin.
with your own bias, you
Right.
make your own decision.
Right. Exactly, dude. Know thyself. I mean, like, I try to be
I'm the
as
same way.
unbiased as
I
possible.
I lean, I don't know which direction, probably out.
I lean away.
I lean away.
NPR, see, Mark, NPR is left leaning, dude. I'm sorry. You got to know the biases, man. You got to know the biases.
And Reuters is also kind of leaning too, but that is RT, Reuters, and if you go check them out, there's a lot of different types of viewpoints that you can use at home just to say, all right, look, I'm gonna RT this. All right, I'm gonna go to BBC.
I'm super confused.
Yes, Mark, brother. Hey, we can clink glasses on that. I'm right there with you. I'm super
We're all
confused.
confused.
Yeah, I'm confused right there with you, man.
It's 2018.
Yeah. Cheers on that one, man.
That's why I don't check, because it just confuses me more.
I think that's become my new excuse for everything.
I try to,
It's funny.
I mean, the Media Bias Fact Check is probably one of the best sites that I've found.
I'll use that. I will.
it's-
But if for before, it was me just, okay, internet, what you got for me?
When you got so many days.
Snopes is left of center, but they tend to be accurate. Tend to be, right? You got to know your sources and read it through that filter, man. That's the end of the day.
Okay. We were talking about what Snopes was. I said Snoops.
Yeah. Snoop, Snoop.
Like, there's
I
a
don't
dog in that.
don't
So yeah, on to that, away from fake news and into crisis actors.
Least bias.
Why
least
is
bias.
it? I want to ask
They're
a really important.
tiny bit left leaning. Sorry,
I wanna
my
ask
daughter
her-
was correcting me,
Oh, okay.
like usual.
That's why you have them, right?
Yes.
Why is it that crisis actors are an actual thing? Why is it that that's legal and continuing on?
Well,
Can
just
anybody
like,
give me one
Yeah, I
good
think
reason
just
why
like
we?
for okay, so just like for what he said, like
there's a legit reason.
that is legit for sure, but that he wasn't actually passed out. You
Yeah.
know, like the shooting. I think that's wrong.
And if you want to know what we're talking about, just rewind it up, pull the clock on back a little bit.
I think that having a school shooting and then if this is
If
they're
it's
plant-
real, right.
if they're planting kids in there to push their agenda, that is so sad. Because crisis actors, should be for training purposes
I think
and
they're
whatnot.
more manipulating these kids because
Yeah.
I mean they're good at manipulating.
Yeah, but
They're
still-
seasoned manipulators
that's-
coming to kids in drama class.
Well, there's
that want a
which
career being an actor.
we didn't get to in this thing, but because I just heard this today, was that CNN was interviewing all these kids that had been protesting and they were all for gun control and all this kind of stuff. And that's fine, right? Like, hey, we're gonna have this meeting,
Love
and the
fact that
kids,
we can protest.
they're gonna have these kids genuinely sharing their points of view and all this kind of stuff.
Oh, I saw
But
this.
there was another kid who had a counter viewpoint that would be called the right, and he was saying, look, we need more security at the school. He was for teachers being armed, all this kind of stuff, right?
My teacher
And
had
so-
gone, they shot that dude.
He had questions. He
What
had
if he shot
hang
the
on.
teacher?
Well, he had
He was
questions.
going to anyway.
There was a comment that was made that said, no matter any situation, there will be teachers who hide in the classroom, and there's going to be, and nothing against them, and there's going to be teachers who stand in between them and the kids and the shooter.
And the reason why
And
they
we
don't have
had
a gun-
one.
Unarmed.
We had one unarmed. We
Yeah.
had one
I'd do it.
in Florida. Yeah, and there will always be those people
I
that
can't.
say
I couldn't help
will
it. My
I will
internal
shield
self
other
would
people's
run
lives,
towards it.
right?
That's what I'm
And
trying
so
to do.
the argument there then is, right, the teacher that is worried about hiding in the classroom, nothing against them, that's normal human behavior. Don't put a gun in their hand,
No, yeah.
right?
They
But
have to
honestly,
be-
with
but
the
the
way-
one who is willing to stand in
the one
between
that's
them and the
shooting on the
kids.
weekends.
Let's
Yeah.
let's put a gun in that
Yeah,
person's
good.
hand and make sure that they're trained.
He probably already
right?
got
Well, see,
10 in his
I
house.
wouldn't. Yeah,
He
that
has an
would
objection.
But again, that's just going based off of the flight or fight.
Sure.
Well, what about veterans in those positions?
Yeah,
Veterans.
put them to work. Put them veterans to work.
Experienced shooters at the end
Well,
of the day.
yeah, experienced
That's it.
shooters. That's
Yeah.
essentially it. But I would say, don't even give a teacher a gun at all, man. Have you seen how much they get paid? They'll shoot themselves. I'm just saying, it's true. So let's go ahead and
Hey.
put that on. The,
Hey,
That is a good point.
Hang
My teacher
on.
would have
Hey,
shot
they
me.
have summer.
My
Hey,
teacher would have shot me.
at the end
so
of the day,
quick.
like for me, the argument isn't put a gun in their hands, not put a gun in their hands. At the end of the day, my thing is eliminate the whole concept of a gun-free zone. quit advertising to would-be killers where there are no weapons.
Yes,
right?
thank you, Joe.
Right?
Thank you. Don't advertise.
That's
there's
like
no
the
guns.
stupidest freaking thought ever. Hey, over here, nobody has a gun. If you're gonna kill people, go
Don't
over
do
there.
This is a
Here,
highly
because they don't have
concentrated
guns.
area.
Right? I'm like,
where
at
everyone
least,
is-
at the very least, make it like the rest of society where you're like, I don't know if they have a gun or not.
And if
They may or they may not.
could.
You know,
Another-
they could.
Another thing
Yeah,
is too, it's
my
not a
life
matter
of being at risk is a possibility.
Heck yes.
And it's
Going
not-
Mutually, I guarantee you, the whole like nuclear weapons and having a big military and all this kind of stuff is that you never hope to use it. It's the concept of mutually assured destruction, right?
Right, if they have the same amount of firepower I do,
Right.
do I really
I
want to go to war?
probably won't go to war,
Right.
right? And here's a fun fact to
There's a
know.
whole Cold War about
Here's a
that.
fun fact to know and love that most people don't know, right? Everybody likes to talk about the Wild West. Well, we don't want this to be like the Wild West, where people walk around with guns on the hip. No, here's a fun fact. By percentage of population, there was infinitely less violent crime in the Wild West than there was in the civilized East.
It's just
Right.
like Alaska. I mean,
Right.
everybody you can.
When you
just
got a
gotta
gun on your
find
hip, you tend not to lip off to that person. I'm just like, you know,
Racism kind of goes out the window pretty fast too.
Right.
Like it's not.
there's
you
a whole
know,
bunch of things. They can
Yeah.
be racist, but I can just shoot them.
Mindful thinking
And
period.
I can hate,
Yeah,
like
mindful
you can
thinking
hate
does-
short people, you can hate whatever, but when that person's holding a gun, you're gonna treat him the way a person holding a gun needs to be treated.
That's
You
why
know what I'm
police have
saying?
guns here.
And that's the way we should look at each other all the
That's
time.
exactly why police have guns here. Is because you have to know if I go up against them, my life could be in danger.
Yeah.
Here's another fun fact.
Maybe you should be born.
Look up the states.
Sweden, I guess Sweden issues a gun to every household.
Heck yeah, they do. They're automatic too.
Automatic.
So
Um,
gun control, we're on it. We get it.
And one of the lowest crime rates.
It's on it.
One of the lowest crime rates in all the world.
I know, okay.
Anyway, here's a fun fact to know and love on the school shooting things.
Joe said, heck yeah, they do.
Look up all the states where mass shootings have happened and look at their gun laws. Just gonna toss that out there. Right?
Also, Chris
See
had
how restrictive they
Chris had
are.
a good point actually, and there's a lot of people that would agree with you, Chris, when you say social media should be 21 and up only.
Okay,
That's
it's
a-
so easy
That's
to
actually
change
an
your birthday.
interesting
Yeah.
idea.
No,
It's
that
so
is-
easy to change your birthday.
No, but it's
That's
not.
like saying the kids aren't gonna get on the
it's
porn
easy to
sites.
change. It's easy to exactly.
Honor code.
It's easy
Come
to
on.
change your birthday, but hear me
I was
out.
18 by the time I was 12. I'm gonna tell you that right now.
Hear me out though, like, hear me out, like, if you did,
They'll follow the honor code.
if you did make it like that to where it's 21 and up, we live in such a technologically advanced era that we can actually stop and prohibit. You know what I'm saying? Like, we have
You want
smartphones
the
with cameras.
Social media,
we
you
have,
cannot.
But you
we
want
have,
them to have that control.
yeah, but see, look, these apps and these permissions, these social
They
media.
already have it.
You're,
yeah.
you're signing an agreement and you don't even read the fine print.
Nobody
Yeah.
reads
You could be
that.
giving them permission to look at everything you have and keep record of it, and you don't know because you just want to use their social media.
All those little things that like
I
say,
stand with
hey,
you on that one,
analyze your
Chris. Social
Facebook
media
account.
should be
Oh
21
yeah,
and up.
they all know.
But
They know
It's
Anyways,
an
guys,
interesting idea.
Samantha says, "Well, guys, I gotta leave.
Get
It's
the
time for
outro
the kids to go
music
to
going.
bed, and it is time for us to head on out of here too. So, real quick, we're gonna go ahead and go do one more round of shameless plug.
We're also gonna live on Instagram.
Oh yeah.
After party.
After
Will be live
party!
on Instagram. So if you want to chime in and stick around and chop it up with us, or if you're not putting the kids to bed, or Samantha, if you want to put the kids to bed, grab a glass of wine, and
If you just want to watch people keep drinking.
we're gonna be here. So my name's Harley. I'm so happy to be your host here on the Whine No Whine Show Artist Edition, where we go live at 7 every single Thursday. This is Gene. He's with Pretty Dreadful. This is Joe, the host of the actual Whine No Whine Show that goes live at 5 every Friday. Sydney's hanging out and representing the Peel Palace. And then Chris with Minnemeyer Art and
Chris
Life.
Minnemeyer is Chris Minnemeyer Art, Chris Minnemeyer
Minnemeyer
on
Art.
Facebook, and CM Art.
So you got the
Yep.
Chris Minnemeyer Art thing going.
Yes, sir.
Cool, and this is Chris's as well.
Yes!
If you guys want to check that
Yes.
out.
I love
We're
it!
gonna be
And that
posting
one too.
links.
Hold
yeah.
it up for
Oh
me.
yeah, nobody dropped the F-bomb today.
Yeah, hold it up. Grab it
Yeah,
off the
can
wall.
you grab it? We always have the F-bomb.
Boom!
I
I think this is the
He's
first.
the
I think this is
artist.
the first freaking episode of the Artist Edition that we haven't busted out the F bomb.
I think it is.
Well, if you want to see the other ones, stay tuned, stick around, or you can go to all of our videos and view them. Kick back and enjoy hours upon hours of artists and musicians getting drunk, talking about. Well, not getting drunk. Yeah, getting drunk. Talking about
Getting
art,
tipsy.
music, and all different kinds of stuff. You can find us at youtube.com/ The Whine No Whine Show, Facebook.com/ The Whine No Whine Show, Instagram. We're going to be going live here in a second. Thank you guys for tuning in. My name's Harley. We'll see you guys next week. So, yeah, man, what a